Hello friends, in this video we'll be taking a look at the autosomal DNA predicted phenotype traits and GD match results of 3 globular amphora culture individuals from southern Poland. They were the European farmers. They were the farmers that Yamnans mixed with to create corded ware and bell beaker individuals. They were sort of the source of the farmer or Neolithic farmer admixture in modern Europeans. Let's begin with the first individual, which is ILK001. He is predicted to have either hazel eyes or blue eyes with a neighbor center, although the percentage for hazel eyes is slightly higher than for blue with a neighbor center. He is predicted to have a Greek-shaped nose and brown hair. For my eye shape predictor is saying that he's got Estonian or basically Northern European eye shape, very maybe hunter eyes, maybe some kind, basically West Eurasian and perhaps even hunter eyes. He's got wavy hair according to my hair shape predictor tool. Snipper free is predicting him to have green or hazel eyes, blonde hair actually, and white skin. But as you can see, YSEC is predicting him to have brown hair and brown eyes and also light skin. He has BEH1 blue eye haplotype 1. He is heterozygous for BEH2 and BEH3. He does not have East Asian EDAR. He has some variants for like the one variant in Tyr, which is pretty rare, a Mediterranean blonde hair and blue eyes variant. He does have light skin based on his genotype in SLC45A2, SLC24A5, and ASIP, and he does not have any derived variants in MC1R, which is on this channel what I call the ginger gene, and he also does not have any derived variants in IRF4's mutation that has to do with red hair and blue eyes, so we have no reason to assume he might have had red hair. This is ILK002. Let's move on to her. She's predicted to have blue eyes or blue eyes with a neighbor center, Greek-shaped nose and blonde hair. With Snipper Free, she's also predicted to have blue eyes and blonde hair, and with YSEC also is predicted to have blue eyes and blonde hair. For eye shape predictor too, her eye shape is once again Estonian, so once again kind of Cro-Magnon, or well, I shouldn't say Cro-Magnon, maybe hunter eyes. Yeah, hunter eyes and European eye shape basically. She does not have East Asian EDAR, and for hair, her hair shape prediction is straight. She has BH1 and BH2, blue eye haplotype 1 and blue eye haplotype 2, and she is heterozygous actually for BH3 as well. And she does not have BH4. She has 2 derived variants in all SLC45A2 and SLC24A4 variations, and once again she does not have any derived variants in MC1R or the main variation on IRF4 that has to do with red hair and blue eyes. So we have no reason to assume once again that she would have red hair. Now we're moving on to ILK003, and this girl is special. Why is she special? She's special because she has the highest percentage prediction for blue eyes out of, I think, any sample I've seen thus far. Even out of the modern samples, even modern people don't really score 81% likelihood of blue eyes with my tool. So it's the highest percentage of blue eyes I've seen thus far. Snub-shaped nose and blonde hair, once again with Snipper Free. She's also predicted to have blue eyes, blonde hair. With YSEC also blue eyes, blonde hair. She has BH1 and BH2 and BH3, so 2 derived variants in BH3, which is like super stereotypically Scandinavian, I guess. Not really... I mean, it's pretty rare outside of Scandinavia to have 2 derived variants in BH3, and she does not have BH4. She's got light color variants in all major coloring related genes, but no hunter-gatherer blue eye plus red hair plus pale skin mutation in IRF4, so once again, probably not ginger, does not have any derived variants in MC1R either, and no East Asian EDAR. For hair shape, she's predicted to have straight hair, and for eye shape, she's predicted to have once again Estonian, so Northern European sort of eye shape. So this individual, all 3 of these individuals, globular amphora individuals, pretty much look like typical modern Northern Europeans. This is what ILK scores with GT match. I'm not going to show you the other individuals because they all score the same thing, and showing you 3 GT match results that are all the same, it's going to be like 20 minutes. I don't want to spend time on this. They all score the same thing, pretty much the same exact things as ILK002. You can check if you're really curious about the intricacies, the little tiny fractions of percentages. You can download these files from link which is in the description, and you can check for yourself what they score. But let's get back to ILK002. This is what ILK002 scores with GED matches Eurogenes K13. And now this is what he scores with MDLP K11 Modern. As you can see, he does have quite a lot of European hunter-gatherer admixture on top of the Neolithic farmer. So the Neolithic farmer components would be the Neolithic Basal plus African, and everything else will be the European hunter-gatherer components. With the Oracle, he's getting modeled as a mixture of Anatolian Neolithic plus Scandinavian Mesolithic. 35% Scandinavian Mesolithic is quite a lot. This individual has a lot of Scandinavian Mesolithic ancestry. This is what he scores with PanDNA LK10. ENF here does not really represent European Neolithic farmers. It represents a very southern component. It actually peaks in Bedouins. So if it was a European farmer component, it wouldn't be peaking in Bedouins. So it's very interesting, very southern component. And this is what he scores with PanDNA LK12 ancient. You can see once again around 32% European hunter-gatherer admixture. There's quite a lot of European hunter-gatherer admixture in this individual. There is no Caucasus admixture here. And with the oracle, you can see actually getting monodose mixture Iberian Mesolithic plus Samara Neolithic. So a farmer from Iberia plus a little bit of hunter-gatherer from Samara. And this is what he scores with ancient Eurasia case 6. You can see a lot of Natufian and a lot of Western European hunter-gatherer. This is a typical score for any kind of European farmer. They tend to score a mixture of Natufian and Western European hunter-gatherer. With the oracle closest to Basques, followed by Sardinians. And actually with the mixed made oracle getting more or less a mixture of Sardinian plus a little bit of Western hunter-gatherer. Or line number 3 and 4, Anatolian Neolithic plus 28% Scandinavian hunter-gatherer. This is what he scores with Gedrousia K3, and with Gedrousia K3, as you can see, 97% West Eurasian, a very white result. So, if you want to argue who is the earliest white people in Europe, like who are the earliest white people in Europe, where did white people come from, who were the earliest, you know what I'm saying. It would be either the funnel beakers and the globular amphora, or it would be the pitted ware culture individuals in southern Sweden, which I've made 5 videos at this point on the pitted ware culture individuals. I've covered all of them, I think. So what are the arguments for pitted ware culture versus globular amphora or funnel beakers being the earliest white people? Well, globular amphora and funnel beakers are lighter. They have more derived variants in SLC 45A2, SLC 24A4. They have about as much, both them and the pitted ware culture, they have pretty much almost all of them have derived variants in HERC2, but there's a difference, and the difference is that pitted ware culture has a lot of ancestral variants in SLC 45A2, SLC 24A5. So they're a little bit darker. These Scandinavian hunter-gatherers, they're a little bit darker than these early farmers of Scandinavia and Poland and Ukraine. However, there's a difference in there's the other side of the argument, right, which is the ethnicity and ancestry. So Northern European specific genetic drift peaks in these pitted ware culture individuals. Pitted ware culture individuals score like 90% North Atlantic plus Baltic with Eurogenes 13. They're very Northern European genetically, right? But globular amphora and funnel beaker, they aren't very Northern European genetically. However, they are more West Eurasian genetically. So if you look at, for example, the calculator I was just showing you, K3, with K3 you see globular amphora and various European farmers scoring 97 to 99% West Eurasian, compared to the pitted ware culture individuals who score like 90% West Eurasian. So more West Eurasian and lighter would be the farmers, whereas more Northern European and a little bit darker but still very light would be the pitted ware culture hunter-gatherers. Now we'll be taking a look at their traits with my genome analyzer tool, which is on my website. Let's begin with the ILK001, which is our individual with hazel eyes. I think 003 was the woman. So 001 has AA in Valmet variation, which means met genotype. Very interesting stuff. Warrior genotype and advantages in attention and motivation, more dopamine levels. Why more dopamine levels? Because this leads to lower activity of the COMT enzyme, and COMT enzyme is the enzyme that breaks down dopamine. TT here, which leads to lower activity of the MAOA enzyme and slower breakdown of dopamine once again. So this individual has not only the Warrior genotype in COMT, but also the Warrior genotype in MAOA. So this individual has just a lot more dopamine in his system. And he's got AA or 2 derived no-goal variants in DRD2 spirophenetine pro. So I think this is an extremely European genotype to have. All 3 of these genotypes are extremely European to have, but I think you need to have AA or 2 no-goal in DRD2 spirophenetine pro. The reason you do when you have TT here and AA here is because if you have this much dopamine, you need to at least have less dopamine receptor availability, because if you had like GG here, this individual might have had like a mental illness, some kind of schizophrenia or bipolar, something like that. So you kind of need to have the no-go learner variants in DRD2 spirophenetine pro in order to compensate for these 2 genotypes. Because, yeah, okay, let's get on to our so less risk of schizophrenia based on the DRD2 And once again here, less dopamine D2 receptors and decreased risk of schizophrenia. Same thing, these two go together. This one and this one, they go together. GG in TAC1, which is the typical genotype for most humans and leads to a slightly higher number of D2 dopamine receptors and a slightly lower risk of ADHD and alcoholism. So this is the A2 genotype in TAC1. Various monkeys, gorillas, apes, whatever, Neanderthals, they tend to have A1 or AA genotype here. So this is the typical human genotype. But some monkeys and gorillas and Neanderthals, they tend to have, I guess, a lesser number of D2 dopamine receptors and a higher likelihood of ADHD and alcoholism. Let's scroll down to this. Oh wow, okay. So this individual has CC here, which is an incredibly rare genotype that guarantees long-form 5-HTTLPR. Most of you watching my video have short-form 5-HTTLPR. I personally have long-form 5-HTTLPR, so I'm kind of lucky in that I have this genotype which protects me from depression. But this individual actually has an incredibly rare genotype that guarantees long-form 5-HTTLPR and decreased risk of depression. Just like me, this individual has a much lower likelihood of depression. It's actually a super Northern European, like most people who have this are Northern Europeans. It's a very Northern European mutation to have. For lactose persistence, does not carry any European lactose persistence variants. For empathy, intermediate here, and 2 variants for lower levels of empathy here. For diabetes, AC here, which leads to slight decrease in the risk of type 1 diabetes. Probably does not have type 1 diabetes. Hemochromatosis does not carry. Alzheimer's does not carry APOE. That's the most important one that we really care about. Miscellaneous section, no micro P. I'm not going to pronounce this, but you know what micro P is. You can have a guess. The genotype which increases intracranial size and 2% higher IQ, slightly higher IQ. Mix of muscle types, likely more sprinter than endurance athlete. And for albinism, not a carrier for albinism type 1. Everything else we don't really care about. Okay, so that was 001. Yeah? 001, yeah. Now let's get on to 002, which is the individual I used for my my GED match. 002 has got GG in Comts-Val met variation, meaning Val genotype. This means warrior genotype, so this is the opposite of the previous guy. And this means less dopamine because higher activity of the COMT enzyme, and COMT enzyme is the enzyme that breaks down dopamine, so less dopamine in the system. TT here, which leads to lower activity of the MAOA. So these two kind of cancel out. This one versus this one. These two genotypes, they cancel out. So the COMT, the genotype in COMT decreases the amount of dopamine, and the genotype in MAOA increases the amount of dopamine. GG in DRD2's no-go learner variant, so a higher number of dopamine receptor sites in the brain and higher likelihood of schizophrenia. The way I'm pronouncing today is just awful. Excuse me for this. AG here, which is increased in a slightly increased number of dopamine D2 receptor sites in the brain. And GG in TAC1 once again, so normal, typical human genotype in TAC1. Not a monkey, not a gorilla, not an ape. For 5-HTTLPR, TT here, which leads to long-form 5-HTTLPR. So this individual does not have short-form 5-HTTLPR like the previous individual. This individual is at a slightly higher risk of depression, which is kind of the average risk of depression, I should say. He doesn't have the protective genotype. For lactose persistence, does not carry. For OXTR, lower levels of empathy here and lower levels of empathy here. Probably lower levels. I can't pronounce. Probably lower levels of empathy here as well. For diabetes, AC here, which leads to a slight decrease in the risk of type 1 diabetes. For hemochromatosis, GG here, which means not a carrier. For Alzheimer's, not a carrier. For myopia, when I say not a carrier, I mean the APOE. This is the one that's important, right? For Alzheimer's, APOE is the one that's important. Everything else is not all that important. For myopia, wow, interesting genotype here, GG. And this is super rare, and this once again is most common in Europeans today. I don't know about Northern versus Southern, but it's most common in Europeans, and it leads to a significantly lower risk of myopia and greater quality of eyesight. And it's pretty rare as well. This genotype for increased cranial size and 2% higher IQ, slightly higher IQ, better performing muscles, likely sprinter, and for traits, for albinism, not a carrier. So not albino once again. Wait, what about micro P? No micro P. Okay. Yeah, I can't not mention that. People want to know about that. Now let's move on to ILK003, which is the woman. So ILK003 has got AG and Combs-Valmet variation, meaning intermediate speed of dopamine reuptake and intermediate dopamine levels. TT here leads to lower activity of the MAOA, so this is the Ware genotype. Kind of a typical, nothing too extreme. Nothing too extreme here, not like the first guy. AG in no-globular variants in DR2 profilating pro. Intermediate number of D2 dopamine receptor sites in the brain. Actually, AG in TOC1, this is interesting. So, most humans, and like the other two individuals, had GG here, which means A2, but monkeys, gorillas, chimpanzee, orangutan, baboon, whatever, any kind of monkey, or Neanderthal has AA here. Neanderthal monkey, they have AA, which means A1A1 genotype in TOC1, which leads to like a 40%, I read the study, it's like a 40% decrease in the availability of dopamine D2 receptors. So that's pretty significant. So her having AG genotype here means she has got a lot less dopamine D2 receptor sites in the brain and a slightly increased likelihood of alcoholism, Parkinson's, and ADHD. Let's move on to 5-HTTLPR, TT here, which is a typical genotype for most humans. The implications of this genotype is that the individual does not have long-form 5-HTTLPR. Once again, short-form 5-HTTLPR, typical 5-HTTLPR, no protective alleles against depression. Lactose persistence does not carry. Empathy, intermediate here, these two are not genotyped. And diabetes, AC once again, which leads to a slight decrease in the risk of type 1 diabetes. I think all three of them had the same genotype here. For hemochromatosis, does not carry. For Alzheimer's, no APOE2 alleles, does not carry APOE2 alleles. For myopia, AA here, which is the typical genotype, no micro P, smaller cranium and lower IQ, slightly higher IQ here. Doesn't really matter all that much, all this is not so important. And here for albinism, once again, does not carry albinism type 1B mutation, so not an albino. Well, that's pretty much all I had to say. I think I covered all of the free samples in quite great detail. You can download them in 23andMe format from link which is in the description. I think I've said that in the video. And also, leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy my content. And goodbye. You're gonna see more funnel beaker, globular amphora, or whatever. I'm gonna get to covering them more in depth the way I covered the pit Ware culture individuals.